toxic sister demanded my house as payment for babysitting my kids, then tried to play victim to our family and manipulated my kids. So, I exposed her lies and cut her off. I'm a 32-year-old single dad with 2 kids, Lucy, who's 8, and Danny, who's 5. We've been on our own for a couple of years now. I work full-time, take care of the house, and do everything I can to make sure my kids are happy and healthy. Balancing it all isn't easy, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. My sister Grace, on the other hand, has always loved to make things about her. She's 2 years older than me, and always had a way of twisting things to make herself look like the hero or the victim, depending on what suited her best. Growing up, Grace was the drama queen of the family. She'd blow up over the smallest thing and expect everyone to rush in to comfort her. As adults, we drifted apart, but when I got divorced, she suddenly wanted to help out. She offered to babysit the kids a few times a week while I worked, and at first, I thought it was genuine. I didn't think for a second that it would turn into some kind of twisted debt I'd supposedly owe her for the rest of my life. At first, Grace would watch the kids here and there, and I was grateful. I'd pay her what I could afford, bring her groceries now and then, and I thought we were good. But a few months in, I started noticing little things. She'd make comments about how dedicated she was to the kids or drop hints that she was sacrificing her time. I brushed it off, thinking she just wanted some acknowledgement. But soon, it wasn't just hints. Every family gathering, she'd somehow turn the conversation to all she was doing for me and the kids. She'd tell anyone who would listen how she'd basically raised them and taken on so much responsibility. It was ridiculous. She was watching them a couple of days a week for a few hours, but according to her, she was practically co-parenting. And of course, I'd hear from family members that Grace felt unappreciated or overlooked. At that point, I started to realize she wasn't helping out of kindness. She was keeping score. Then came the holidays. Grace hinted. Actually, she didn't hint. She flat out said she expected a little something extra for Christmas because she'd helped so much. I was floored. I mean, she was talking as if she'd been doing this out of some contractual obligation and now deserved a holiday bonus. She even told me the amount she thought was fair, which was honestly more than I could manage at the time. I tried to reason with her, explaining that I appreciated her help but that things were tight financially, and she called me cheap and selfish. We argued, and for the first time, I realized this wasn't some harmless family favor. She thought I owed her. Things really escalated when Lucy had her first big school play. I'd taken time off work to help her practice, even making her costume. But when we showed up to the play, Grace was there, telling everyone she'd worked so hard to help Lucy get ready and couldn't wait to see our little star. I pulled her aside and told her it wasn't right to take credit for something she hadn't done, and she brushed me off, saying I was ruining the moment and just couldn't share the spotlight. I let it slide because I didn't want to make a scene at Lucy's event. But inside, I was fuming. Then came the big one. Out of nowhere, Grace asked if we could talk. We met at a coffee shop, and she came in with this serious look on her face. She wasted no time and said, "I've been thinking about all I've done for you, and I think it's time I get something in return." I asked her what she meant, and she hit me with this. "I think it's only fair that you sign over your house to me as a thank you." I stared at her, trying to figure out if she was joking, but she looked dead serious. She went on to explain how she'd sacrificed so much to help with the kids and deserved security in her life. Apparently, that security was supposed to come in the form of my home. I was speechless. She kept talking, saying she'd practically raised my kids and how it was only fair I give her something in return. I told her she was out of her mind if she thought I'd hand over my house, and she actually had the nerve to call me ungrateful. She said she was family and that I was disrespecting everything she'd done for us. At that point, I'd had enough. I told her flat out that she'd crossed the line, and she stormed out, saying I'd regret this. Within days, my parents were calling me, telling me they were disappointed and that I'd hurt Grace deeply. It didn't take long to realize she'd twisted the story, making it sound like I was some ungrateful jerk who'd refused to acknowledge her sacrifices. She told them I'd been using her for free childcare and refused to show her any appreciation. So I invited my parents and Grace to a family dinner. If she wanted to play this game, I'd make sure the truth came out. When everyone arrived, Grace wore this smug expression, fully expecting to win. I started by laying out the facts. I explained everything, the babysitting arrangements, the payments I'd made, the groceries I'd bought her, and finally, her ridiculous demand to take my house. I pulled out my phone and showed them the text messages where she'd laid out her plan to secure her future. My parents looked stunned, and Grace tried to interrupt, saying I was misinterpreting her words, but I didn't let her. "You wanted my house, Grace," I said. "You flat out demanded it as payment. I think everyone here deserves to know the truth." The room was silent. My parents were obviously embarrassed for having believed her. Grace was furious, turning red and mumbling something about taking things out of context. But it was too late. Her lies were exposed, and no one was taking her side anymore. She stormed out, and this time, no one followed her. After that, my parents apologized, but it didn't fix everything. The whole experience left me feeling betrayed and a little broken. Grace was my sister, and for a while, I'd thought she genuinely wanted to be a part of my kids' lives. Instead, she'd been keeping score, waiting for the right moment to cash in. After that dinner, I hoped things would settle down, that maybe Grace would back off and realize she'd crossed a line. But if anything, she only got worse. A few weeks after the blow-up, Grace started calling again, acting like nothing had happened. She told me she wanted to patch things up because life's too short to hold grudges. I could tell from her tone that it wasn't some heartfelt apology. She just didn't want to look like the bad guy anymore. Then she started grilling me about my dating life. I was seeing someone new, Karen, a teacher I'd met through one of the kids' school events. I'd mentioned her in passing to our parents, and somehow, Grace had heard about it. "Oh, that's great," she said, her tone dripping with fake enthusiasm. "I just hope she's with you for the right reasons, you know? You've got a nice house, a stable job. Just be careful. Some women see dollar signs, and you're not exactly in a position to deal with more heartbreak, are you?" I couldn't believe her nerve. Here she was, the person who'd literally tried to get my house from me, warning me about gold diggers. It was so absurd, I didn't even have words. "Grace, that's none of your business," I said. "And after everything, you're the last person I need relationship advice from." "Oh, so you just want to shut me out now," she replied. "Fine. But don't come crying to me when things go south. I'm just trying to protect you." At this point, I'd had enough. I told her to stay out of my personal life and ended the call. She didn't call back for a few days, which was honestly a relief. But I knew it wouldn't be the last time she tried to advise me. With Grace, I couldn't even go to family events in peace. Every gathering was her stage, where she'd act like the misunderstood hero of our family drama. At Thanksgiving, she started talking loudly to our cousins, making sure I could hear, about how she'd helped me out so much but had been pushed aside. She was playing the martyr card like it was an Olympic sport. At one point, she turned to me directly and said, "Remember all those days I spent with the kids while you were at work? I don't know why you'd throw all that away." I just wanted to be a good sister. I ignored her, but she wouldn't stop. Every time I'd start talking to someone else, she'd cut in with another story about her sacrifices. By the end of the night, I was so fed up I left early. My parents tried to make me stay, but I wasn't about to sit there and listen to her rewrite history to paint herself as the victim. After Thanksgiving, I made it clear to my parents that I wouldn't be attending any family event if Grace was going to act like this. They promised to talk to her, but I knew it wouldn't change anything. Grace was too far gone, too obsessed with this narrative that I was some ungrateful villain. Then there was the incident with Danny's soccer game. Danny's been getting into sports lately, and he's good. I'm proud of him, and so is Lucy. So, naturally, I posted a short video of him scoring a goal on Facebook, just a little proud dad moment. Within an hour, I saw that Grace had shared my post with her own caption. "So proud of my little champ." All that time we spent practicing together paid off. She hadn't kicked a ball with Danny in her life, let alone helped him practice. I felt my blood boiling. It wasn't enough that she'd tried to take my house. Now she wanted credit for my kids' achievements, too? I commented on her post. "Actually, Danny's been practicing with me every weekend. But thanks for cheering him on, Grace." A few family members saw it, and she quickly deleted the post. She didn't call me about it, but I could tell she was furious. Grace's final move was to start showing up at my house unannounced. I'd come home from work, exhausted, and there she'd be, sitting on my porch with some flimsy excuse like, "I thought I'd bring cookies for the kids." She'd come in, act like she owned the place, and start commenting on the state of the house, saying things like, "If you need help keeping up, you know I'm here," or "I wish you'd let me spend more time with Lucy and Danny. They must miss me." It was all part of her plan to keep her foot in the door, to act like she was some crucial part of our lives. One time, I came home to find her in my kitchen, rearranging the cabinets. I asked her what she was doing, and she said, "Just trying to make things easier for you. I mean, I used to do this stuff all the time when I was watching the kids, remember?" I told her she needed to call before coming over, and she got all offended, saying I was treating her like a stranger. That was it. I installed a doorbell camera and stopped answering when she showed up uninvited. I just talked to her through the speaker, telling her it wasn't a good time. Eventually, she stopped coming, but not without a few angry texts about how I'd changed and was shutting out family. The worst part was when she started using my kids to get under my skin. One day, Lucy came to me and asked, "Why don't you let Aunt Grace come over more?" She said you don't like her helping us anymore. I was livid. She'd been telling my kids that I was the one keeping them apart, that I was the bad guy. It was manipulative, and it crossed every line. I took Lucy and Danny aside and explained, in a way they'd understand, that grown-up problems weren't for them to worry about. I told them Aunt Grace had her own issues, but that none of it was their fault, and they didn't need to feel responsible for fixing anything. They seemed to understand, and they didn't bring it up again. But I knew I'd have to keep an eye on Grace's influence. The breaking point came at Lucy's birthday party. I'd invited a few family members and close friends, kept it small and simple. A backyard barbecue, some games, and a cake. Grace showed up uninvited, bringing a huge stack of gifts. At first, I let it go, thinking she'd drop off the gifts and leave. But of course, that wasn't her style. She started handing out the presents, each one followed by a loud announcement about how she knew Lucy best, or just had to get this because I've been there from the start. Then she made herself the center of attention, telling everyone about her special bond with Lucy and Danny, going on about how she'd been practically a second mom. I kept my mouth shut because it was Lucy's day, but inside, I was furious. Then, as I was lighting Lucy's candles, Grace pulled me aside. She whispered, "You know, you could at least be a little more gracious. I'm just trying to be involved." That was it. I told her straight up that she was overstepping, and that if she couldn't respect boundaries, she needed to leave. Grace looked shocked, probably because no one in the family had ever actually stood up to her before. But I wasn't done. "Grace," I said, keeping my voice low so as not to upset the kids, "you're not a second mom. You're their aunt. You tried to make a profit out of helping me. You demanded my house, undermined my parenting, and used my kids to get sympathy. You need to let this go and respect my family. This is Lucy's day, not yours." She scoffed, then tried to storm off dramatically, but no one followed her. She left, muttering under her breath, and for the first time in years, I felt like I'd finally put my foot down. After the party, I got texts from a few family members who'd heard from Grace, each with a different version of her side. She told some people that I'd thrown her out, told others that I'd banned her from seeing the kids, and even claimed that I was keeping her from her own family. It was like she couldn't help but twist every detail to make herself the victim. This time, though, I didn't stay silent. I explained the situation honestly to anyone who asked, showing them Grace's texts and recounting everything, from the demands for my house to the way she manipulated the kids. Slowly but surely, the family started to see through her games. They understood why I'd cut her off and respected my decision to put my kids and myself first. As for Grace, she's out of my life. I blocked her number, ignored her attempts to reach out through other family members, and told her once and for all that I wanted no part of her drama. She tried to send letters and emails begging for forgiveness, but I could see they were just more of her manipulations. "I was just looking out for you. You're being unreasonable. And my personal favorite, family is everything, but you wouldn't understand that. Life's been more peaceful since I cut Grace out. The kids and I have our routines, and I've been able to focus on my relationship with Karen without Grace meddling in the background. My parents have been supportive, and so has most of the family. They see how much better things are for us, and they know it's because I finally set boundaries. Sometimes I think back to the little ways Grace always tried to keep control, always framing herself as the hero, keeping her foot in the door with fake help, constantly rewriting our family story to make herself the center. It's sad that she couldn't just be a sister, an aunt, someone who genuinely cared. Instead, she tried to use family as leverage, and when that didn't work, she tried to manipulate and guilt me into submission. Now, I focus on the things that matter: my kids, my work, and the people who are actually there for us without expecting something in return. Cutting Grace off was hard, but it taught me something important. Family isn't about blood. It's about trust, respect, and support. And if someone doesn't bring that to the table, even if they're family, you don't have to let them stay in your life.